This video is brought to you by Squarespace. I'm going to share some of your work in this video, and we're going to continue this ongoing discussion about, being an artist. I also want to note that I am making good progress in getting through this mail here. Today, we're going to go through some stuff from 2019. So if you sent me something a while back, hopefully I'm going to get to it today. So I'm going to say up front that if you're into street photography, you are going to love this video. This is heavy on the street photography. Anyway, first up is this little book from Ramon Brito. I've actually had experiences with Ramon on social media. He's actually a very cool guy. Anyway, he goes on to write, I have sent you my first photo book, Streetographia. This is a gift to myself since I'm going to be leaving the States soon and starting my new life overseas in Europe. Seeing my images printed on a book has inspired me to push forward from other projects that I have in mind once I move to Europe with my family. I hope that you enjoy your very own copy. I'm a big fan of your photography and the education that you have provided for your followers on YouTube. Cheers, Ramon. And this is a nice little document of New York City. Excellent work. All right, next up is a calendar that comes to us from Antonis Pitzios. All right, I realize I'm opening this a little late, but I'm going to share this anyway because there's really some beautiful work in here. Dear Ted, I am an amateur photographer based in Athens, Greece. I am sending you a 2020 photographic calendar that I made along with best wishes for the new year. Please accept this present from me as I consider you to be an important source of inspiration for me. I hope you enjoy my photos. Nicely done, Antonis. So I want to take just a second and address some comments from a previous video where I was talking about becoming an artist or becoming a professional photographer. Inevitably, every time that I bring up this topic, I get the same kind of questions, and I want to address some of those in this video. So to be honest, and this is actually the good news, is that if you want to be an artist or you want to be a photographer, well, that's actually very easy. All you have to do is decide, hey, I am an artist or I am a photographer, and then, there's no test you have to take. There's nothing to study for. There's no license. You just declare that that's what you are. However, if you are going to be a successful artist, that's an entirely different story. And I've kind of talked about this before because it's like the people that I've known who have gotten a lot of success, there's no single way that they all did it. There's no roadmap necessarily involved, especially when you get into contemporary art. And I say this because the question that inevitably I get asked every time is people want to know if I could speak from my experience in working in a museum and working around art galleries, like what do you do to break in? Like how do you cold call a curator or how do you approach a gallery? And I'm going to be honest, it's pretty much impossible to do that. First thing you have to understand is that gallery directors and museum curators, first of all, they get hit up all the time from amateur artists who want to show them their book and think that magically they'll be discovered somehow that way. And that's not really the role of a gallery director or a museum curator. Those two roles can be similar in that there's a type of work that they usually specialize in and they know a lot about. It's their area of expertise. The biggest difference is that when you look at an art gallery, ultimately that's a business that needs to make money. So they need work that can sell. And ultimately, a museum is kind of a cultural institution, so they're going to pick stuff that is kind of considered by academics as of the oeuvre of photography, let's just say. When I worked in an art museum, they got a ton of calls, and there actually was a system to filter through. You can't just call up and get a hold of a curator. And the reason being is that not only do you have amateur artists who feel like they can be discovered that way, you also have people that were going through the attic last weekend, they found this piece, and they want to know what it's worth, and it might be valuable, or the table over there might be valuable. There's a wide range of stuff, but they get calls like that all the time. Now, one, the reality is they just cannot deal with that volume of calls. It's not really part of their business. That's what Antiques Roadshow's for, and that's what schools are for. My point is that you're not going to get anywhere doing that. In fact, I'll tell you a little story, and this was kind of harsh to actually be a witness of. But a couple years ago, I went to a show called APAD, and APAD takes place in New York, and it's a vintage photographs show. And it essentially is a bunch of art dealers that go there, so it's anything from collectors to actual galleries. I won't mention the name of the gallery because this is not a slam against them at all, but it was really a harsh reality. So I'm sitting at this booth and I'm looking at the work they have up, and they had some really nice stuff. It was one of the major galleries in New York. And so I'm standing there and I hear a guy come in behind me and he's got a book with him. And he asked the person there, hey, and he mentioned Joe Blow, the owner of this place, is he around? I'd love to show him my book. And she put the brakes on that faster than I've seen anything in my life. Basically looked him right in the eye and she said, look, we don't do reviews. Do not leave your book. We won't look at it. We'll throw it in the trash. I'm serious. We won't have anything to do with it. You need to go away and find somebody else to. And I thought, wow, that is really harsh. But the reality is a gallery also at a show where they're actually selling work, they don't want to be associated that they just take stuff cold call like that. But my point is that you have to have connections, and it's a long road. If you're going to go down this contemporary art direction, you really need to know the people who buy that kind of work. They need to know who you are. Generally speaking, you need some experience with shows in certain markets. It's a long process, and it's not really like something that's cut and dry. Like I could say you need to do this, 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 and this, and then you'll get accepted into a museum or you'll have your own show. I mean, sure, you could look at artists and you can look at photographers and you can see how they did it, but generally speaking, because it's such a long process and you deal with different generations of people, that it's just really hard to put that in together into something that can work for you. And I'm going to go on a limb here with something that could be fairly controversial, but it's just something that I've observed. One of the problems is in the world of contemporary art is there's so much mediocrity that's celebrated, and a lot of this has to do because you have very wealthy collectors who kind of go about a certain way and they have certain things that they like, and then there are other collectors who actually hire somebody to collect all their work for them because it is a financial investment. So it's a very confusing world to get into. About the only thing I can say is that if you really want to do that and you really want to do art for art's sake, you need to just be able to enjoy that process. It's kind of like anything else. It takes so long to finally get some traction, some success out of something, that if you don't really enjoy it and you're not truly passionate to the core about it, it's just not going to be a road that you're going to survive. You're going to give up before you get anywhere. I will mention one individual, and I talk about Ralph Gibson a lot because we spend a lot of time together. We're working on a video next month. We're doing a lot of cool stuff. And one of the things that, I've never really asked Ralph about this, but it's just an observation. You can read his autobiography. It is out. It's available. But one of the things that I've just noticed, and he's not going to say it, but what I've noticed is that he had a career where pretty much he created all of his own opportunities and would not take no for an answer. If there wasn't a way to directly get into doing something, he'd find another way and he'd push through. And I've never seen somebody of that level of success that just like all along the way just bulldozed it. If you look, Ralph wanted to be published, right? And so his first book, The Somnambulist, he self-published back in a time where nobody self-published. He figured it out. And so you've got to take that kind of viewpoint of it. And I'm not saying that maybe publishing a book is the right thing to do now. It's very easy to self-publish these days. You've got Blurb, you've got all these online digital presses that will do stuff for you. But you've got to figure out how you're going to separate yourself out from the crowd, and you're going to have to figure out how to do it yourself. And that's, I guess it's one way of looking at it, and I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody, but it's just a very confusing path, and I don't really have a clear and dry answer for it. Speaking of self-publishing and people putting their work out there, that's exactly what's going on in these types of videos. Anyway, I want to share this with you. This did not come with a note. This was done, and guys, if you're going to do stuff on Blurb and stuff, I have no context for this whatsoever, and I almost didn't show it, but it's so good that I want to share it with you anyway. It's called A Burial in Congo. This is a book from Ludovic Benefoy, who writes in the intro here, "I'm sorry that it had not come back sooner. I was afraid of you and Congo, but now I regret not having spent more time there with a person that loved me very much. I should have gotten to know you better. I should have been there more than once." So it's an interesting poem. It's got a great narrative that runs through this. This is a wonderful piece of documentary photography. There's some brilliant work in here. It's obviously shot in the Congo. I really wish that there was a note in here with a little more context, but I guess that's one of the cool things about doing a book on Blurb is they'll drop ship. So this was drop shipped to me, and I'm sorry I can't put any more context around it. I don't know anything about Mr. Benefoy, but it's really nice work. Okay, this is really nicely done. So I have actually two more books that are really incredible. And real quick, before we get into these, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor this week, who are the awesome folks over at Squarespace. I am actually redesigning my personal website right now, and I'm going to be using Squarespace. So I've been sharing a lot of images with you guys in these videos. This is something that I want to share more of, be able to put links and things to when I have collections made. Squarespace is an awesome place to do that. It really is the easiest way to build a website. You can build an online portfolio. You can even build an e-commerce store on here. The tools have really gotten good. How easy is Squarespace to use? Well, you're going to start with one of their award-winning templates. Now, all of these templates are customizable. Your content is separate from the template, so you can change the entire look. If you feel like you need a complete refresh or you're not sure on something, you can get things to look exactly like you want them. What good is a website if nobody's looking at it? Well, Squarespace have the right social tools and email integrations in here so you can do your own own website promotion as well. My favorite part of Squarespace, well, it's really intuitive. So if you can drag and drop a folder of images, you can build a photo gallery. It's that easy. You can easily go into the settings to customize everything to your liking, hook it up to your own domain. In fact, they sell those too, and you are in business. So head over to Squarespace using the link below this video, and you can try it out for absolutely free. And when you do decide that Squarespace is right for you, I can save you an additional 10% on your first order by using offer code AOP. So once again, offer code AOP. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to the awesome folks at Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Okay, this is gorgeous. This is a little book called The Amount of Light, Scenes from Japan by Hulen. So Mr. Hulen has actually been featured on the show before. He was in Photo Assignments number 13, and he sent me a little 5x7 to see if I remembered it. Definitely remembered. It's a cool photo. He goes on to write that all this was done with film, and he also created a YouTube channel with his fiancée documenting their journey. They called it Adapt Analog. I will look up the URL, and I'll put that in the show description. And subsequently, he was able to create this first book entitled The Amount of Light. It's a series of images taken through 4 separate trips traveling to Japan alone. My intent was to travel with the sole purpose of getting lost in new and unfamiliar places, just to immerse myself in another way of life, completely foreign to my own. I want to capture scenes that told stories. Therefore, I would like to give you a copy of my book as a thank you for all you have done. This is also available on Amazon.com, so I will find that link and I will put it in the description below. This is really nicely done. I know this was done on 4 different trips, but the layout and the presentation of these images, it starts in the day and then moves into night, and it really has a nice continuity to it. So this is really nice work, man. You should be proud. Awesome job. Next up is a little zine and a book that come to us from Daz Smith, and I love how direct he is in here. It says, Ted, love your YouTubes. Hope you like my first photography book, Daz Smith. I would love to share the zine with you, but unfortunately YouTube kind of has a problem with the human figure, and it does have nudes in it, so I'm not going to show that. It is amazing though. I am going to show the book, however, because this is really some cool work in here. Daz, nicely done. This is a wonderful little book, and if you guys have any questions for me, please drop them in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, later.